We're all here because we're demanding justice, raising the issue of justice for Freddie Gray. We want the police that killed Freddie Gray indicted, convicted, and sent to jail.
That's right. Yeah.
But today our rally is raising justice for Freddie Gray. We're also raising justice for those arrested. We are here to demand amnesty for Baltimore's youth and those arrested. Baltimore's youth are not thugs. We'll tell Mayor Stephanie Rawlings. We'll tell President Barack Obama.
That's right.
Our youth are not thugs.
That's right.
We demand justice, respect, educational opportunities, job opportunities for the youth of Baltimore. We're going to have a small rally, and then by 4 o'clock we're going to be marching to the Juvenile Justice Detention Center, because so much of the police attacks have been upon the juveniles, and there are some juveniles arrested. From there we're going to city jail to show our solidarity with those that are still in jail, while the police were given those arrested police were given a $150,000 bail. Alan Bullock was given 3 times that much, a $500,000 bail. Some of the others that were arrested are still languishing in that pit hole called City Jail in Central Booking because they can't afford a bail. We're going to go there and demand justice for them and show our solidarity and demand amnesty, amnesty, amnesty. And then we're going to wind our way from that prison jail complex back down here to McKelvin Square and end our day's activity. We want to open. My name is Andre Powell. I'm with the People's Power Assembly here in Baltimore. We thank everybody for coming. We're going to open our rally with remarks from Reverend C.D. Witherspoon, who is the president of the Baltimore chapter of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, who has been a long-time organizer in Baltimore against the issue of police killings and brutality. So if anybody in the mayor's office tries to tell you, well, they weren't aware people felt this way, we tell them, bullshit. Reverend Witherspoon and Sharon Black were arrested several years ago because they wouldn't leave City Hall because they wanted to deliver a letter to the mail over the issue of police killings.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So she knew, they all knew. Don't go for that bull jive they give you. Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, Reverend C.D. Witherspoon.
Brothers and sisters, as Brother Powell eloquently articulated, myself and my colleague, we spent 19 hours in Central Booking. A couple of years ago, we were there to deliver a letter to this mayor to articulate our outrage in relationship to the shooting of David Yim. I've got to talk about David Yim because when people talk about what happened here in Baltimore City a couple of years ago, we've got to provide some context. Am I right about it?
Yes.
Because we're not going to allow for anybody to define our struggle. See, we began marching and protesting and raising hell and saying enough is enough about police brutality when we heard about a man by the name of David Yim who was partially paralyzed. He was partially paralyzed. One half of his body could not move. The Baltimore City Police Department were called to respond to the scene because Mr. Yim allegedly had a knife. But I just articulated to you that one half of his body was paralyzed. When the police officers arrived on the scene, they did not have a discussion with Mr. Yim. They didn't talk to Mr. Yim, although the call that came in articulated that he had some mental health issues. The officer reached over the passenger side of his cruiser. The window was rolled up and he shot several shots out into the general public, endangering the entire community and hitting Mr. Yim, a partially paralyzed man, stomach. You see, that's when we begin to talk about police brutality and raising hell. The reason why is because this took place in Poplar Grove. And Poplar Grove is a neighborhood not too different from Sandtown, where Freddie Gray was killed by the Baltimore City Police Department. What we know is that this stuff is definitely about race, but we're confident that it's also about class as well. We're confident that in certain neighborhoods and in certain zip codes, these types of things just don't happen. We're confident and we are very aware of the fact that in Uptown, where the development takes place, right where we are right now, these type of things don't happen. But when you go past Martin Luther King Boulevard into the neighborhoods, when you go into Sandtown, and when you take the road to go into Cherry Hill, and when you go into Brooklyn, and when you go into East Baltimore, where Anthony Anderson was killed in the presence of his 2-year-old grandchild right there on the grassy hill, these type of things have a tendency to happen. And so, brothers and sisters, we are right to be here today. And because we are right to be here today, God is with us. And I just have to believe that because God is with us, no one can stand against us. We've got to provide context. Folk are talking about this damn thing being a riot. This is an uprising.
Yes.
People are standing up for the first time and saying enough is enough and meaning it. We're tired of burying new generation Emmett Tills. We're tired of burying new generations of the 4 little girls in the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. We're tired of burying black and brown and poor children simply because of where they live, what zip code they come from, and what neighborhoods they come from. We've got to provide context. A couple of years ago, Anthony Anderson, we remember Anthony Anderson, over there in East Baltimore. The officers indicated they saw him in the process of ingesting some illegal drugs and substances. What happened was the police came up behind Mr. Anderson without warning. They didn't have any communication with him. They picked him up in the air, launched him into the air, and slammed it on his head like a basketball, killing him almost instantly. This took place in the presence of his 2-year-old grandchild, in the presence of his elderly mother, in the presence of his children, and in the presence of his siblings. Many of the people that are here today, they demanded a preliminary autopsy report. And within 48 hours, we discovered that there was no airway obstruction, no drugs were on the scene, and his system was completely clean. Wow. That debunks the police officer's account that Mr. Anderson was attempting to ingest illegal drugs. But I got news for you today, that even if he was, he did not deserve to die.
Exactly. Yes.
Every encounter of black person or poor person or working class person, male and increasingly female, has with the police should not be a deadly encounter. That's right. 2 years ago, Tyrone West was driving in what the system referred to as a nice car in Northeast Baltimore. Anthony Anderson's case took place in East Baltimore. I'm talking about a different section of the city. The police pulled him over. They ripped him out of his car, they beat him, they kicked him, they stomped him, and they tased Tyrone West to death. They killed him. His only crime was driving while black, was driving while poor. And last year we remember George King, that 19-year-old young man who was otherwise healthy, who went into Good Samaritan Hospital with a simple tooth extraction, but was tasered 5 times to death. He was banked by the Baltimore City Police Department and the Good Samaritan Hospital Police, and he was tasered 5 times to death and died right there. He went there for a simple tooth extraction and was killed by the Baltimore City Police Department. So come on, let's give this thing some context. We're not going to allow for anybody to define our struggle. So we're here today to demand amnesty for those folk who have the bravery and the courage to be the Martin Luther King Jr. and the Rosa Parks and the Cesar Chavez's and the leaders of their time to say enough is enough. And they put their bodies on the line, y'all, for me and for you. We're not going to allow for anybody to divide us and to turn us against our brothers and our sisters. We are right to be here today. We are right to go to jail for justice. And we are right to stand up for justice on their behalf. So we're calling on amnesty. And Amnesty, we're calling on humanity. We're calling on the humanity of this city, this state, and even this country. How dare you call us thugs? These people are heroes. Right. They were heroes to be in the streets to force the government what they did not do in the case of Anthony Anderson. The folk had to be in the street because we know that nothing ever happens without people being in the street. Right. We've got to remember something, y'all. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 didn't pass until Bloody Sunday happened on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma. We've got to be very aware of the fact that sometimes we've got to shut up and we've got to put up. Sometimes we got to put our bodies on the line for the sake of justice, and that's why we're calling for amnesty for these protesters. And listen, we're sick and tired of the fact that here, $30 million, the system has $30 million to put up for a new jail, but they don't have the money to invest in our communities. You say you're concerned about Sandtown. If you're concerned about Sandtown, divest in the jail. Divest in the jail and invest in communities. If you're concerned about Sandtown, invest in our communities. If you're concerned about Sandtown, invest in our children. If you're concerned about Sandtown, invest in opportunities. But don't lock and warehouse our children up, because we're not going to stand for another generation of black and poor and working class people having to be succumbed to a criminal justice system that is racist and classist. So brothers and sisters, let's stay focused, y'all. Let's stay focused. Because see, this is what the enemy comes to do. He comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. But we put the devil under our feet today, and we shall not be moved. Because see, this is the type of thing that happens. They want to provide a distraction from what we are here to do today. We're calling for amnesty, and we're not going to let a devil in hell keep us away from what we're here to do. We're right for calling for amnesty.
Two people walk around with donation buckets. We'd ask if you're kind, if you have enough, you can help us out with some of the costs of printing the posters and flyers that are related to today's rally. Our next speaker is Mike, a member of the IWW who was beaten and arrested by police.
Hi everybody, I'd like to start off by thanking everyone for coming out today. I was arrested for peacefully engaging in an act of peaceful civil disobedience outside of City Hall on May Day. We decided to stay out past 10 p.m. because the curfew was illegitimate. The people of the city didn't want it. It was forcing a lot of thousands of workers out of hours that they need, to survive on their jobs. And it was being selectively enforced against protesters and black youths. And so we did not like it. We didn't see it as legitimate. So we were out there defying it and protesting it. The police first came in and they took a whole bunch of people who were sitting down together on the grass in City Hall. At one point they were arresting or beginning to arrest one of my fellow workers in the IWW, at which point I grabbed him and tried to de-arrest him, at which point they slammed me against a news truck and then slammed me against the dirt riot shield over my head, and they proceeded to chicken wing me. They twisted my arm, pulled it back. The louder I screamed in pain, the harder that they would pull, so I just bit my tongue. They took us to central booking afterwards. One thing that I thought was funny, I guess, or just disappointing or sad, when they took us into central booking, they had all of our possessions on one side of the van, and me and the other guy that I was in the van with were sitting on the other side. When we come out, we have all of our possessions there, phone, wallet, etc. One of the things that I had was a little pamphlet, Know Your Rights, by the National Lawyers Guild, that they were handing out earlier that day. Well, when we were put into central booking, I got my phone and I got my wallet, but I didn't get the Know Your Rights pamphlet from the National Lawyers Guild, because they don't want you to know your rights. And I asked where it was, and he said, oh, I don't know. I saw it when I was coming out of the van, and we weren't very far from the van. We were like 10 feet away. He could have gone over and seen it. I mean, he knew it was there. He didn't give a fuck. You know, I was released the next morning, which I'm thankful for. There are a lot of people still in jail. You know, I'm glad that I was able to get out so early, and I'm glad, even though I was roughed up quite a bit compared to some of the other people that night, there was another guy out there, Jonathan, who's a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. He had his arm broken. So I'm just thankful that I didn't end up like that. And I'm glad that we're out here struggling and moving things forward. And it's because of people coming out here and demanding justice that a lot of the charges for the curfews are being dropped right now. If people weren't out here demanding them being dropped, they wouldn't care, they wouldn't drop them. So it's because people like this, people like us, are coming out here and demanding justice. I'd just like to thank you all again, and solidarity.
All right, I hear those tunes strumming and warming up in the background. We're going to lead us in the marches, but while we're being serenaded with songs of struggle, sisters and brothers, song of a people fighting for justice for all people, I want everyone to get ready to line up behind the lead banner